All right, thank you, Ellen, for joining us.
My
So we're gonna get right into questions.
okay.
So what inspired you to start writing your books, and why did you choose the Morgan to write about?
Um, well, I'm sorry about the dog.
No, it's okay.
She was quiet until we started. Um, Basically, you write about what you know, and I know Morgan horses. I've had other breeds, but 90% of my horses have been Morgans. I love the Morgan breed. I grew up with Morgans. Um, I've always been a writer, so I just the writing was not planned. The stories were not planned originally. The first book happened because my horse Blackjack was off at the trainers, and it was the winter, and I couldn't go see him because I worked full time, and every Saturday we got a snowstorm, and he was 2 hours away, so made it kind of impossible to get there. And so I missed him and just started writing. And it originally was just going to be a short story for the heck of it, but some friends read it and said you got to do something more with this, and I did, and that's what happened. That's how book one started, and then book one was so successful that I got a lot of requests for a sequel. So it just sort of happened. I never planned to be a writer. I used to do a lot of writing in my job. My background is in Russian and Russian studies. I got a job at the US Senate in DC. I was writing for Senator Kennedy. I would write papers that he would read on the Senate floor and stuff. So I was always just a writer, and it just came naturally. So I was trained in that, but living in the city was not for me. I missed my horses. So I quit a really good job in DC to come back and try to find any old job just so I could have my horses. So not the brightest decision, but in the end, it worked out well.
That's awesome. And now you kind of already answered this, but how did you know exactly where to start and what kind of stories you wanted to write in the beginning?
It, again, it wasn't planned, so I really didn't know. Originally, the Blackjack story, if you've read it, the first chapter is a dream sequence, and that was going to be it. It was just that dream sequence, and that was it. I dreamed I was missing my horse and wrote that, and then I was like, I can make a story out of this. I had been writing for probably about 12 different horse magazines at that point, including the Morgan Horse Magazine. I wrote for the Appaloosa Journal, the Miniature Horse Voice, Horseman's Yankee Peddler, Equine Journal, a whole bunch of them, and stable management. And I loved doing the profile articles, but then I would get an assignment like installing Dutch doors, and that was just so exciting. Uh, and interviewing people about getting those hinges just right and stuff. And I like the fiction writing much better. So it just, and slowly as my books took off, a lot of those magazines went under. Miniature Horse Voice is gone, Yankee Peddler's gone, Equine Journal's gone. There was another miniature horse magazine I wrote for. There was a miniature donkey magazine. They're all gone. So it's a good thing my books took off so I could keep writing. So
Right. And were these books your first book series, like your first major publication?
the Blackjack book?
Yes.
Yeah, Blackjack was the first one. And then the sequel, Frosty, came out, and Frosty actually won a national award before Blackjack. It was kind of backwards, but Frosty won Children's Choices, and then Blackjack did. And Children's Choices, it's run by the International Reading Association. They have 12,000 kids vote for their favorite books, and they're not horse kids. So the fact that two horse books won against all these other books is pretty cool. And like a lot of the other books are like potty humor kind of books. Uh, Not to disparage anyone, but the fact that a nice horse book could win against that stuff, I thought was pretty cool. But then both of them won, so that was nice. And that was,
Right, that's amazing.
yeah, saying, yeah, these books are pretty good. So that was nice.
Um, can you tell us a little bit more about each of the books you've written so far from, like, start to finish?
Oh my, okay. Well, let's see. There's the 7 books in the Morgan Horse series, and they're all my real horses. Blackjack, of course, is a star, and he is now 27,
Oh,
and
wow.
He's in the pasture. His nickname is Mr. Grouchy Pants. He deserves to be grouchy. He's kind of he he looks really good in the summers. He's getting the winters are getting harder for him, but he has free reign of the whole. We have a 16-acre horse farm, and we're not far from Northampton. We're in a town called Goshen, which is about 20 minutes from Northampton, but we have 900 people in our town, so it's pretty tiny. And he has free reign. He just goes wherever he wants. Then Frosty is about my Gray Morgan, and I bought her. She is actually, there's two lines of gray, if anyone is familiar with Gray Morgans, and most of the grays come from one line, and there's only like 5 or 6 from the second line, and Frosty was the last of that line. So she was sold to me with the intention of bringing back the line, and like the book Frosty, the real Frosty hates ring work. So she became a trail horse, and in the story, uh, the main character Heather has dreams of another blue ribbon show horse, and Frosty convinces her that's not really a good idea. Um, and so that follows. I mean, the books are fictional, but I do wrap the horse's real personality into each one. And then Rusty was about my first Morgan. He's the one that I used to ride to New England Morgan over the Coolidge Bridge and everything. He was my trail horse. And that was a hunter jumper story. And I've never done hunter jumper, but I wanted the challenge, and I got a couple people who worked with Olympic riders, and they would critique it and help me through, like, well, if you're approaching the jump and I want the girl to do it wrong, what would I do? You know, that sort of thing. And they'd help me through that. Then next one was about Robin, who was my first Morgan. And she was just a fun horse. I had a blast with her. And that story follows a girl who had a bad riding accident on another horse, gave into peer pressure, and rode a horse she wasn't supposed to. And then she goes to the farm where Heather and Blackjack and the others are, and tries to get her courage back. Then there's Annie, which is a mystery. And that one I dub as a backwards mystery, meaning that the reader knows what's going on. The characters are trying to find the background to Annie because she doesn't have her registration papers, but she's clearly a Morgan. So they're trying to find out so they can get the papers. But the reader knows her background and basically doesn't want the characters to find out Annie's background, which would be obvious when you read it. Rimfire is about my son's horse, Rimfire. When I wrote that, Rimfire was 2 or 3, and my son, who was 12 at the time, was going to train him Western. Nikki, my son, won the horse. The Berkshire Morgan Youth used to have a contest every year called Win a Morgan Horse. And my son won that contest one year, and he won this gorgeous Morgan. He was a yearling at the time. So I wrote it with a Western theme. Again, I did that one with barrel racing, and I've never done barrel racing except for one year at New England Morgan. They actually had barrel racing. They had for a few years at New England Morgan, the versatile Battle of the Breeds was really popular. So they would have a qualifier at New England Morgan. You had to go in the barrel racing and pleasure class, jumping class, whatnot. So we did that one year. That's all I've done of barrel racing. I did have the fastest time of anyone, but I did manage to knock a barrel down, so that doesn't count. But so originally my son's horse was going to be Western. He wanted to do cowboy mounted shooting. So I wrote it with a Western theme. And then once the horse was green broke, I sent him to our trainer just to get him safe. And he arrived in the middle of the winter like a huge fuzzball. And as spring came and he started going nicer and nicer, my trainer was like, "Our horse is really nice, Ellen. You really want to show its saddle seat." And my son, who swore he would never, ever, ever show, let alone never, ever, ever show saddle seats, spent like 5 years showing the horse. Blast. So there was that one. And then the last book in the series is Blackjack, the Champion Morgan Horse. And that's about going to Oklahoma with Blackjack. And because the main girl, Heather, can't afford to just send the horse out with the trainer, she works with a trainer to earn her horse's trip, and then she rides out in the van with the horses cross country, and it's about the cross country trip. Um, then I did a photo book called Meet the Morgans that goes with the series. And that book came about because I had so many requests. Could you send me a picture of this horse? Could you send me a picture of this one? What does this one look like? And it was really nice that the kids wanted to know what each horse looked like. So I put together a book about them, about each one, and with little information on each one. And I just came out with a new edition. The original edition was a hardcover 32-page book. The new one is a paperback, 44 pages. But what I did is there's 10 or 12 pages at the back just showing versatile Morgans. I put out a call on Facebook. Hey, if you have good pictures of your Morgans doing fun things, you might get them in this book. So I had a ton of responses. So um, that was that one. That's the companion book. Then there are 3 books in the Donkey series, and those are for really young readers. There's What Can I Do About the Donk going to a new farm and trying to fit in, and she can't seem to do anything right. There's one called Horse Show, where Donk wants to go to a horse show, but first she has to practice obstacles at home to make sure she can do them. And then the third one is called Take a Hike. And that one, she wants to hike to the top of Mount Washington, which was always one of my favorite places to go camping. If you're familiar with Mount Washington, it's the tallest peak in the northeastern United States. And I contacted Mount Washington because there's a road, if you're familiar with it, there's a road that goes up to the top. It's open to the public. It's a pretty big deal because it's pretty scary going up the top. There's no guardrail or anything, and it's a big drop. And I contacted them thinking they were going to tell me, you're crazy. No, we don't want anything to do with this. But they love the idea. They actually shut the road down for a morning to through traffic so that we could take our truck and horse trailer and donk up to the top of the mountain for a photo shoot. And then they helped us. They had a guide bring us up there and everything and show us the best places for the best shots. So that was very cool. Then I didn't write, but I published Pidgey's Surprise, which, if you're familiar with Morgan's going back a little ways, Jean Mellon Herrick, who did the official diagrams for the Morgan Stallion Mare and Gelding. And she was a well-known artist, and she did all my artwork. She had written this book back in 1955. And it's a really sweet story of a little girl who has a wonderful pony, but she wants a horse like all the big kids, and she just doesn't appreciate her pony until one day the pony goes missing. So I love the story, and I told Jean I wanted to do it, but it needed updating. There were things in the story like the father tells the little girl, oh, buckle up. And kids reading today wouldn't understand, why is he saying put a seatbelt on when they're in the barn? You know, the phrases needed some updating, but there's 86 drawings of Jean's in it. It's really a beautiful little book. So I published that. Then I did 3 hardcovers. The first one was called Shadow, the Curious Morgan Horse. It's a fictional story of a baby horse who goes on an adventure. I thought that would be fun to write about. And she gets lost in the woods because she listens to a rooster who tells her some stuff that's not quite true. And a basset hound comes to her rescue. And then there's Justin Morgan in the Big Horse Race, which is historical fiction about the race that Justin Morgan was in up in Vermont, when he raced the 2 what were called running horses back then. And then the third one is called Blackjack, the Magical Morgan Horse, which is about a girl who dreams about a horse, and then the dream comes true. And each one is written at a little bit different reading level. So that it goes from first grade to like late first grade to second grade reading level. Then I did a book, not a Morgan book, but a little bit different. I was doing a book signing in Pennsylvania, and there was a mounted police unit there, and one of the officers saw my donkey books and loved them and said, can you do a book about my police horse? So I said, sure, why not? That would be fun. So we went down to Lancaster, Pennsylvania a couple times for a couple different photo shoots, followed the officers around and their horses. And then the second photo shoot, which was really cool, we went to Bethlehem. There's a big music fest there I think it's August. And we got to go up on a bridge which was closed to civilians. It was just the police officers and the FBI and all the coordination and all these police, and then just myself and my photographer. So that was a lot of fun. And then I have 5 books in various phases of work right now. I have the one that's going to be published first is called the Morgan Horse Coloring Book. And what I'm doing, again, I put a call out on Facebook. I use some pictures of my own horses, but rather than just generic horse pictures for coloring books, I took pictures of real Morgans and had an artist convert them. I don't know. Let's see. I think, wait a minute. Um, is it here? Okay, so that I don't have the original, so you can't really compare, but this is my son's horse. I don't know. Will that show up there? Let me see if I can hold it still. No, I guess not. That doesn't work. Well, sort of. Anyway, so that's a 64-page coloring book that will be coming out by October. Then I have a companion to the police horse book called What Does a Police Dog Do? And that one we're working with the Rochester, New York Police Department and their canine unit. That will probably be out early next year. I have one called Let's Go to a Horse Show, and it's featuring all Morgans. And we're working with a Morgan show barn and going to follow their kids around as they get ready for a show. And then we're going to follow the kids to a show so that readers can see, like, it's not just about winning blue ribbons. There's a lot of hard work that goes into getting ready for the shows. I've got the first book in a new series called Rocket the Miniature Morgan Horse. It's for a little bit younger reader than the Blackjack series, about a 3rd grade reader. And it's based on, again, another one of my horses, Rocket, who is actually part Morgan, half Morgan, and half Shetland pony. And he looks like a Morgan in miniature. And I mean, he'll flip his tail over his back and do that beautiful Morgan trot, but he's got this super thick Shetland pony mane and stuff. So that the first book is done. The illustrator's working on the images right now. And then I've got another book that is done and is in draft, going through and reading and reworking. And that's about a rescue Morgan who just starts out has a wonderful life, and it's a nice show horse, and then winds up going from owner to owner, and things get worse and worse, and till it has a happy ending, but sort of like a Black Beauty type thing, but with Morgans. And I think that's it, but that's enough.
So you answered my next question, which was, are you still writing?
Yes.
So what is the publishing process like, and is it difficult?
When I started, it was difficult. Now it's very easy. Most people I know use Amazon to publish. If you want to do an ebook, it's as simple as uploading a file. It's very simple. And then the Amazon gives you an option. You want to create a paperback from this. If you want to make it look professional and not like an amateur kind of book, you like I have freelance professional designers and editors and illustrators. So you know how much you want to go through. I don't publish through Amazon because I sell, like, people who publish through Amazon primarily sell online, but my books go to a lot of stores, retail, and like through the Morgan Association or through UVM, their bookstore, or the Morgan Farm rather, and a lot of other places. So I go through a traditional printer, which is what most of the big New York presses do. So I will print anywhere from 2,000 to 10,000 books at a time. Um, so there's a whole process, and basically, like, the um, the the Rescue Morgan book that I just finished, it's about 50,000 words. I want it a little shorter, so right now I'm doing a read through on my computer on my laptop, and then once I've done that read through, then I will print it out, do another read through, reading it on paper, because I catch different things online versus reading on the paper. Then once that's done, I will go through a third read through on my computer, and then I will send it to my readers, who are people who will read it and pick up not so much like misspellings, but wait a minute, you called this other horse George in that chapter, but you changed his name to Greg in that chapter, pick up little inconsistencies and stuff. And then from there, it goes to an editor. And the whole process can take 6 months or up to a year. Um, but again, that's because I go through the traditional old fashioned way, and the printer, once it goes to the printer, and basically you just upload PDF files. You upload one PDF for the interior and a second PDF file, which includes the front cover, spine, and back cover. But it's like I don't do the files because, like, for the covers, you have to know the thickness of the paper and how many multiplied by the number of pages to get the spine width right. Because if you get that wrong, it messes up the book. So things like that, I don't want to mess with. I'd rather just do the creative. And while my designer's working on that, I can work on another book.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, if you just want to write a book and get it on Amazon, it's pretty simple.
And now what do you hope readers take away from reading your books?
Um, I think, I mean, it's somewhat educational. I always said I never liked the stories where the girl befriends the wild stallion and they save grandpa's farm, and it's just not realistic. I those always bugged me. So the realism is very important, and the kids realize, this is what the responsibility of owning a horse, and these are the things. And then beyond that, just fun stories. I think a lot of books, like my Blackjack series, is for ages 9 through 13, and I don't put any, like, there's the main character is a girl and one of her best friends is a boy, but it's completely platonic because kids grow up too fast. And I just want them to have a fun story about having fun at the barn with your horses. And there doesn't need it to be any girlfriend, boyfriend drama and all that kind of stuff. Just fun. Let's go ride our horses and go to a horse show and, you know, do horse stuff. So,
Right.
so kind of a combination of learning, but also just fun stories and getting them to read. I've had several parents that have written me, or I've met at book signings saying their child was dyslexic or had reading disability or this or that. And they read my books, or they started to read them and they never read, and they got into the stories and they actually are reading now. And that means a lot to me to have someone say that because of my books, their child's reading now. So
Yeah, that's really
that's
cool.
really nice.
Um, and now this kind of leads into the next question. What is the most rewarding part or your favorite part about being an author?
Being able to stop whenever I want to go play with my horses.
Mhm.
Yeah, I had a real job for like 28 years. I worked at a local college in the physics department, and that was a 9 to 5 job. And I quit that 3 years ago to do the writing full time. And I love making my own schedule, but I just love dreaming up new stories and just sharing them. And then I get emails and Facebook messages from kids and stuff, and asking me questions about the story, or when are you going to do this, or can you do that. I love the interactions with the kids.
What was your favorite book to write?
I've been asked that question a lot, basically, or what my favorite book is. And I don't think I really have an answer because I like them for different reasons. I mean, Blackjack was my first book, and I didn't know, I wasn't trying to prove to myself that I could write a book, but I wrote a book. Um, Rusty is about my all time favorite Morgan. Um, the book about the barrel racer and the hunter jumper were a lot of fun because I wrote about something I didn't know. And then I had people who were nationally ranked in those disciplines contact me and say, hey, this is really good. And like, I was reading the chapter where you said the girl put up the cross poles, and she put up the jump at like 4 feet and had never jumped. And I'm reading it and said, well, that's so dumb. The author doesn't know what she's doing. And then the horse balked, and you got it right on. And I was like, and so that was kind of cool, rewarding to hear them say, yeah, that's what a kid would do. And you showed it, and you showed exactly what the horse would do. And the fact that I didn't have any experience in that discipline, but was able to convey what others had told me about it was pretty cool. Um, so again, I don't really have an answer, but I like them all. They're all my children.
Is there any book that you wish you could rewrite and why?
Um, Not rewrite completely. Like the Blackjack series went in for new cover designs. And because I print them like 2,000 or more at a time, I couldn't do them all at once. I had to do them as they came out of they like a print run was sold out. And each time I did that, I would go in and make changes. Um, so there are little things I would change here and there, but and I think what's true for most authors is if you gave me a chance, I would be rewriting it forever. Just pick up in little things and I think let's see, was it Frosty? When I wrote Frosty, she gets lost in the woods and she has her cell phone on her and she flips it open because it was a flip phone when I wrote it. So I have to go in and update technology. And I think I'm a little more cognizant of that now when I'm writing a book because it's like I'm writing about something and it's like, well, I wonder if that will be around in 5 or 10 years. So I sometimes make something kind of vague and don't mention specifics about like a phone or other technology related things for that reason. But no major rewrites.
That's good. What is the most challenging part of being a writer?
Um, Taking criticism, I think like it's like when I my first editor was tough and it was really hard. She's like, that line is wrong. She was pretty harsh. Um, you have to have a thick skin, and then like you get a review online, and it says, "Why was this book?" Well, I haven't gotten one like that. I've seen them though, like, "Why is this book written?" But or somebody gives you a review online and like they completely missed a point, or this was just wrong. A character would never do that. I remember there was one website where in my book Rusty, Frosty has a foal and Heather hasn't named it before it's born. And someone went on this big long rant about there's no way the kid would have not named that foal before it was born. And I was like, well, I have a 2 month old foal now and it's still not named. So things like that, you can't respond. You just kind of have to suck it up and bite your tongue and move on. So you need a thick skin sometimes. So that's the hardest part is taking the criticism, but it's part of being an author.
Right. Do you have any advice to give to those thinking about embarking on their own writing journal, whether it's a formal way or an informal way?
Um, Basically just do it. I mean, I always wrote stories when I was 8, 9. I wrote a whole series of Wizard of Oz stories when I was in like second grade. I don't know what happened to them. Obviously, they weren't bestsellers, but just do it. Just keep writing. Write about what you know. Like I write about Morgan's. Again, I had a writing background, but I wasn't professionally trained as a writer. I was trained in Soviet and Eastern European studies, but I had to do a lot of writing. And again, when I worked in Washington, I was writing all the time. So it just, I mean, if you love writing, just do it and share it with your friends and get feedback. And when you get feedback, and if they say something like, "Oh, that's not quite right. That's not what a horse would do," don't take it personally. It's not meant to be a personal attack, but take it constructively and just work and get your writing better. So
That's
just
really
do it.
good advice.
Just do it. It's nice to say.
And now to round us out for our questions, how do you like to enjoy time with your Morgans best?
Well, let's see. I have a show horse, so getting ready for New England and showing, and um, I go down to the show barn twice a week. So I love doing that. I am in the process of breeding two of my mares. I love the babies. So I'm kind of a mix. I like to trail ride. I like to bop around the farm. We have great trails here, lots of dirt roads, and I love to show. So I do pretty much everything with them. I used to bop around on like homemade jumps and stuff, and I have a carriage. I like to go driving. I have a sleigh. mean, they're Morgans. You can do anything with them, right? And
Right, they're awesome.
I think that's probably what part of what attracted me to the breed is just, especially when I was younger, I would do something and then a few weeks later, I want to do something else. And my Morgan's like, cool, let's do it. I mean, they just wanted the more, the merrier, the better the adventure, and they were as eager as I was to try something new. So I will do whatever with my Morgans. Like I like to just putter in the barn, and a couple of them, like Blackjack, will just wander around loose, and they'll go out in the path or out in the yard actually and have some grass, and then they'll come in and like watch me muck and like try to tip the wheelbarrow over or whatever, and just keep me company. And they know where the horse cookies are, so they try to break in and get horse cookies, and they're just fun to be around.
Right. Yeah, they're great horses. So that finishes up the questions that we had for you. At this time, if anybody else that's listening in has any questions, you can feel free to ask, whether it be out loud or in the chat.
I don't have a question. I just wanted to say that it's cool to be listening to you, Ellen, talk about writing the book series that I grew up reading. I just graduated from college. I've been around horses since I was 7. And for like the longest time, I would only read horse books. I don't think I actually started reading non-horse books until like 7th or 8th grade. And like I'm sitting here thinking like I should go find my Blackjack series and reread them. And I just think it's cool. I think we're friends on Facebook, and it's like I think it's really cool that the author that I grew up with is, local kind of to me.
Are you in New England or?
I live in upstate New York.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Do you go to New England Morgan or anything, or just to hang out, or?
I haven't shown in like 11 years. I'm gonna try and show my horse. Probably not in New England. I have been to New England show once, to just to go. But
Yeah, well, I mean, I go to all the New England ones, so look me up if you're at one of the shows. Just reintroduce yourself. Hey, we met, whatever.
yeah, yeah,
'Cause I tend to forget. But yeah, no,
yeah.
I'm happy to meet. Oh, so yeah, no, thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed them, and that sort of thing is what makes me really happy, is knowing that my books gave some enjoyment, like that I created the story in my mind. And a lot of the stories and adventures um, come while I'm mucking stalls. So thank you to my Morgans for making dirty stalls so I can go muck.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
My pleasure. It was fun.
Your stories are really interesting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ellen.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. It was fun. Thanks for coming.
All right, we'll see you guys all next month. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.